We didn't. We have to go back to the Mishnah. So actually, Lamed Amud Aleph. Did we do long? I think. Lamed Amud Aleph. Yeah, we started the Mishnah. Okay. Let me just find my place in here. Yeah, Lamed Amud Aleph, the Mishnah. So Truma Shenafel Amea. You have a measure of Truma which fell into 100 measures of Chulin, the Tachnon, and you ground them, Upichsu, and now they are diminished. In other words, there's less than 101 now, I guess, when you grind, so the volume goes down. So now, Kashem Shepichsu Chulin, just like the volume of the Chulin gets diminished, Kach Pichsu Truma, so to the volume of the Truma gets diminished proportionately, and therefore it's permissible. What if it's not proportional? So Truma Shenafel Pachos Mimea. Well, now what's the other direction first? You have a measure of Truma which fell into 100 measures of Chulin, the Tachnan, and you ground them for Siru, and they expanded. Okay, somehow they expand when they're ground. So here too we say it expands proportionally. Just like the chulin went up proportionally kakosir truma, and therefore it's also right because the forbidden proportions remain. What if you know that the grade of the chitin, the wheat, the chulin wheat here, was superior to the grade used for the truma wheat, and therefore when you grind them, the chulin will expand more and more proportionally than to the truma. So then mutter, that's okay, and the Gemara is going to qualify this. Okay, says Gemara, turning to Lamed on base. This is not only where the truma got diminished. It's a tremendous kula. No, tremendous, but a significant kula. A heter, to be actual, to be more exact, using your terminology from before. Whatever issue was 100 to 1. And then you ground. And now it got diminished, and now it's only 99 to 1. Because the grade of the chulin was inferior to the grade of the truma. Nonetheless, you can grind, it remains mutter. With special kula, since it's all the rabbanon anyway, so it started out okay that way, even though it doesn't end up that way, that's sufficient. Okay? Tanya, we learned. If the truma has stones, pebbles, and chaff mixed in, so that does not join the truma less or a chulin in order to make an isser. In other words, if that chaff brings the truma over the permitted proportions, it doesn't matter. It still remains mutter. Okay? However, on the other hand, a kula, the chaff of the chulin mitzarefes ima chulin. Literally, tinovas means refuse. But the refuse with the chulin mitzarefes the chulin joins the chulin lahalos a truma. In other words, if you don't have 100 to 1 in the proportion of grain by itself, but again, the refuse, it is over 100 to 1, that's okay. Okay, again, kulas, because these are all the rabbanans. Rabbi Bibi Boy, Rabbi Bibi asked, Tinova shel truma mashu ditztar v'chulin. Can the refuse which fell with the truma join with the chulin? Lalo says truma. In other words, can I, bring it over to the other side, right? So it says more, yes. We madam our rabbun of that which Rabbun said, klipe iser. The eggshells of an egg which is aser. Let's say you have an egg with a blood spot, and when blood spots are really aser, right? So you have an egg, so the egg shell is mitzaref with the mutter eggs to make a rove. Because the egg shell of the aser egg is not really aser, right? So therefore it's mitzaref to be mavatal the egg. Similarly, nuts, if you have a nut which is aser, right? Say an almond of orla or something. So the shell is mitzaref with the heter, that's right. Because the shell is not technically aser, it's only the fruit which is aser. Okay, klipe iser, husks of iser, mitzarefim leheter, they join with the heter to make it mutter. Hadamara, so this teaches us, tinovit shel truma, that the refuse of truma, mitzaref shel chulin, joins the chulin in the house of truma to bring the truma up, and make it 100 to 1. Tani, we learned to the Brisa, saw truma shenaflu meya. If you have a measure of truma which fell into 100 measures of chulin, You do not exclude the zunin, poor grade grain, and the refuse in the chulin, and it does join with the chulin, as we just learned, to be avato the truma. If it fell into less than 100, in that case, you do take out the refuse of the truma. In other words, again, we go in each direction of the kula, where the refuse will add on a heter by tacking it onto the chulin, we add it on. Where the refuse will, if we take the refuse away from the truma, and that will make it mutter, by making the truma diminish, we take it off the truma, and so on and so forth. So to a measure of clear wine, which fell into a 100 log of wine, which includes dregs. You do not exclude the shmarim, rather the dregs, they join to make the proper proportion. And vice versa. Log shel yain achor, if you have a measure of wine which had dregs, which was truma, shenafel amei lug yain so, which fell into 100 lug of wine which is clear, atamoyt shmarim shabo, you take out the dregs, meaning the dregs of truma are not included in the shiur of truma, rather included in the shiur of that which is matir, that which permits the truma.
Aren't the dregs of truma? Can't they be used by the kohen?
I guess they don't, even if they're used by the kohen, but they're only monetarily the kohen. They're not considered to be at the kedusha of truma, because they're not the primary fruit. That's what it seems. Okay, so truma should, it's a good question you're asking. I really don't know. I'm just assuming that. Yeah, it's a good question you're asking. It bothers me. I assume it's good. I hope it'll be explicit later on in the Masechta. Just see if there's something here in the footnotes. Doesn't say anything here. Yeah. Alright. Seems like it's on the up and up. Seems like they're not truma. That's what it sounds like. Alright, so truma shrav lepachos may have a tochna. You have a measure of truma which fell into less than 100 of a measure of truma which fell in less than 100, and then you ground them. Oh no, it's a header. You probably just don't have the header. Yeah, you don't have the header. Maslis in the Rabbi Yossi. Our Mishnah says that if you have less than 100 to 1, but when you grind it, it's going to be more than 100 to 1 because there's a superior grade of chulin to truma. That's going like Rabbi Yossi. Okay? Where is it? I'm sorry. Tani avteichen b'tchila. That's a tani avteichen b'tchila matir. It says you can even grind it and make it mutter. So matznis and that Mishnah is going like Rabbi Yossi. The Rabbi Yossi Amar. Rabbi Yossi said, I have the Tanina Tamon. I have a different gears in mind. I have a very different gears in mind. Alright, well, I'll read it the way you have it here. Masis Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi mar ap miskavin v'yukot v'yala mechel masayim. You're allowed to be invatal isel l'chatchila. Okay, you're allowed to do it. And here in my Gemara brings down the whole Mishnah. It says there in Orla that if you have a plant of Orla or plant of Kili Akarim, which got mixed up in many other plants, but are not sufficient in order to be avatal it, harezel yilkot, you can't gather it. If you did gather it, it's only sufficient. You can only, if they're 200 to 1, so then it's cancelled because they're by oil and kilogram. You need not just 100 to 1, but rather 200 to 1. But you cannot intentionally gather them together in order to make proportions of 200 to 1. That's the prohibition of aim of atlin is. One is not allowed to cancel these surim intentionally, only if it happened automatically, but not intentionally to do so. Rabbi Yossi Omer, you can even intend to do it and create a situation of 100, 200 to 1. So here too, it's Rabbi Yossi who says you can intentionally grind the grain and get it up to proportion of 100 to 1, because he also we don't hold that way. Okay? Rabbi Zira said, Here, you don't have this, but it should be Divrei HaKoli. Everybody agrees with this. Why? Shekain the Kohanim, Shekain der Kohanim lios tochlin medu vatein. All grain is eventually ground. In other words, to be vatal chachila means to go and do something which is not part of the normal procedure. Anyway, in order to be mevatel, and therefore, or the Kilei HaKerem or the Orla, don't collect it. Just leave it there to rot. But you're not going to leave it to rot. You don't have to leave it to rot. This is a truma, which got mixed in the chul, and you're going to give it to a Kohen, right? He's allowed to eat it. And when you give it to the Kohen, what's the Kohen going to do before he eats it? He's going to grind it. So why wait till he grinds it to make 100 to 1? You make 100 to 1. That's all. It's just bringing earlier a step which will inevitably occur anyway. That's what makes it okay to do over here, even according to Rabbanan. That's only to take a step which otherwise will not be taken. But you just bring a later step earlier into the process. Hey, that's okay. No, now you're not giving the coin anything. Because the moment it's I see. Yeah. Okay. No, you're not cheating the coin because the coin, even in the case where you have to give the entire mixture of the coin, you have the right to sell him everything other than the actual amount of chum which fell in. So you're never cheating the coin. The coin will get the whole mixture then, but he has to pay for part of it. Here, all you're doing here, the coin doesn't have to pay, obviously, but he's only getting the part which corresponds to a truma, right? Masha being whatever your mala which fell in. So ultimately, the Kohen is not losing anything as a result of this. Okay. What's the difference whether we say it's Rabbi Yossi or Rabbana? Kilei HaKerem, right? Where it's Kilei HaKerem. I'll die to Rabbi Yossi even by Kilei HaKerem Tochin Umatir. Because it's not, even though it's not an inevitable step, even though you will just leave it, nonetheless it's permissible to go ahead and do so, because the ultimate valid is still chatchila. I'll die to the Rabbanan, according to Rabbanan, ain't no tochin l'matir. You can't be tochin l'chatchila in that case. Why? Simply because there, it's not an inevitable step. Just bury the whole thing, or burn it, don't use it at all. Okay? Let's go back to Mishnah. Where is this? Next last line, right. You have a measure, so say which fell to less than 100. And then other chulin fell in to bring it up to more than 100. If it happened unintentionally, mutter. He made it happened intentionally, it's also again because of aim of adlin is sochatchila. Back to the Gemara. Just Rabbi Avo, you have Rabbi Avo b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, you see that by the little dalet? Rabbi Avo b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. Kol yisur b'Torah, any yisur Torah, shariba aleim, where you add it on and mevatel it. The shoy gave it was unintentional mutter, that's okay. But made if it's intentional, also. Ask Gemara, that's our Mishnah. What do you have to tell me, Rabbi Yochanan? We know it's in the Mishnah. The lamas nisa is in our Mishnah. B'shayim mutter meiz it also. It says b'shayim it's also mutter. Meiz it's also. It says more masnisa b'truma. I might think our Mishnah is only talking about truma. Asamei melach Rabbi Yochanan is going to tell you afilu sharkos variant applies to anything in the Torah, not just to truma. Rav Acha b'shem Rabbi said. This is just a statement out of left field, but it's brought down because it's similar to the next statement. Just like it's a mitzvah to say, to express oneself about something which may get done as a result. So too, it's a mitzvah not to say something when nothing will happen as a result of your talking. In other words, if it's Mishnah says, "Shem shemitzvah lagid dvarim anishmoim, kach mitzvah shlo lagid dvarim shle'enam nishmoim." It's a mitzvah to say things which are going to be heard. It's a mitzvah not to say things which are not going to be heard. Okay? Don't give rebuke if it's going to be fruitless. On the contrary, it's harmful then, because then the person rebuked is doubly liable, A, for not doing the right thing, B, for not listening when he was rebuked.
I guess Yonah was thinking,
Because they wouldn't listen, maybe. And here's the famous lines, famous from this morning's talk. Just like it's also to say that which is tameh is actually tar, so too it's also to say that which is tar is tameh. Okay, it's also mi machmir mi safek. That's normally true, except if you have a case of truma where for sure it's tameh, shayav it's tameh d'rabbanan or tameh d'oraisa. You don't know whether it's d'rabbanan and therefore you leave it around till it rots. In Lisrof it's d'oraisa and you should burn it right away. It's preferable to burn than to let it rot. Why is that? There's no more precious korban in the Torah. More than the bulls which are brought in Yom Kippur and are burnt completely, and the goats brought in Yom Kippur which are burnt completely. And their burning is a precious act before God. So too, if you have a doubt whether to let truma rot or a doubt whether to burn it. It's like an act of hakrova. Says Mar, no. Rabbi Yossi asked him this. The Donnie's davar she'em mitzvah lochein. Are we going to extrapolate certainly where the mitzvah there's no such mitzvah? Midavar she'mitzvah lochein from a case where the mitzvah is that way? No, it's by a korban. The mitzvah is to burn it, and that is the service of God. By a truma, there's no inherent mitzvah to burn it. If you know it's bad, you get rid of it and you dispose of it by burning it. But the mitzvah it's not like a korban. So therefore, there's no greater mitzvah to burn truma than to let it rot. Yeah, but that's not a manifestation of, divine service. It's convenience.
It's not a busha to the truma that's sitting there rotting in the cave.
Maybe, but that wasn't the point he was making. He was comparing truma to a korban. In other words, it could be there are other reasons to say burning is advantageous, but not because of the comparison of truma to a korban. That's what we're saying. Okay? New parak, 6th parak, Laman Alpha Ralph. Ochel truma shoygig. If somebody eats truma unintentionally, Gazor eats truma unintentionally, non-going. Mishayim Keren V'chomer, she pays a principal and a fifth. What's the fifth in this case, by the way? How much is a fifth? If you have 100, what's the fifth of 100? It's a trick question.
No, that was because you counted fifth as part of the thing.
Right, so what's the fifth of 100 in Gemara terms? 25. 25, because a quarter on the inside is a fifth on the outside. Very good. Oh, true Mishayim Keren V'chomer. What? That's right. Echor oecho makes a difference if you eat. V'echor shoysa, you drink. V'echor sach, you anoint yourself with it. Echor truma tar makes a difference to the truma which is tar. V'echor truma tmei, or truma which is tamei. Mishayim V'chomer, you pay a fifth, and then if you eat the fifth, V'chomer chumsha, you pay a fifth on the fifth. Ad nauseum. V'ein Mishayim truma, when you give to the Kohen the restitution, you do not give him truma. El chulin mitzukanim, you give him chulin from which you already tithe the truma sumaisrus. Ve'inasiv truma, that becomes the truma when it's given to the Kohen. But tashlumin truma, and the payment is truma. Right. In other words, if the azar eats this stuff which you just gave to the Kohen, so he has to give another keren chemish, right? The Kohen wanted to be able to say, it's okay, I don't mind that he ate the truma. I'm moichel it. Ain't a moichel. Can't be moichel. This is an atonement on part of the Yisrael or the Levi for that matter, and the Kohen cannot be moichel it. Okay? Let's go to the Gemara. Ksiv, it says, on the same page. Ksiv, you don't have the word ksiv. It says, well, you do in the next line. I don't know, for some reason he doesn't have the header here. Yeah. So he eats truma unintentionally. Ksiv, it says, V'ishki ochal kodesh b'shkoga v'yosel chamishiso. He should add a fifth. But that means the way we dash it, shehu v'chomsho chamisha, that it and its fifth should be 5. Meaning that 4 plus 1 equals 5. So here we see the concept of a chomesh milovar. That's a fifth on the outside. Okay? That asks Gemara, Velokin am Rabbi Avo, didn't Rabbi Avo say, B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, Mezid b'chelev. What? The shiur b'chem is b'karman. Let's look at the read Baz. First line says, "Kain achlochem Rabbi Elazar b'shem Rabbi Yochanan heizu b'chelev shoyge b'karban." Kain tzarich lomar v'chenim kama mekaymes v'tos hatfus demuchachu. It's an obvious typo. Okay? So, v'lochein Rabbi Avam Rabbi b'shem Rabbi Yochanan meizu b'chelev, person intentionally. Let me say it. Meizu b'chelev shoyge means like this. A person is aware that if you eat chelev intentionally, you get malchus. You get flogged. He's not aware that if you eat chelev unintentionally, you bring a korban. Doesn't know that. He doesn't know that there's bringing a korban. So, Masribo, fascinating Rabbi Yochanan says, if we warn him not to commit the Aveira, and he did it anyway, so he's amazing. Loke, he gets malchus, but maybe korban has got to bring korban as well. He gets a double whammy here. He gets flogged, and he has to bring korban. Why? Because on the korban aspect, he was shogeg. He didn't intentionally transgress vis-a-vis the korban, because he didn't know he'd be chayv for korban for transgressing. So therefore, vis-a-vis the korban, he's considered to be shogeg, and he brings the korban. It's a fascinating concept. I don't know if I'm making it clear.
He purposely ate it after he was warned.
He would, yeah. So, but there's Rabbi Yochanan holds there's a separate, narrow definition of shogeg, means shogeg vis-a-vis a korban. But even though you're amazed in the eating, if you didn't know you're chayiv the korban, you bring the korban. That's called shogeg b'korban. It's an amazing concept, yeah. So it's possible to have a case where you did it on purpose, you're getting flogged, you're bringing korban at the same time. That's what Rabbi Yochanan is saying. Okay? Vem Rav Hocha, so let's see here too. Mezi b'truma v'shari b'chomesh. If a person intentionally ate truma, which belonged to Kohen, but he didn't know that there was a concept of chomesh, yatrubo, let's flog him, v'yilke, and he should get, let's warn him, and he should get flogged, v'yavi chomesh, should get chomesh as well. So why does it say here, b'mezid there's no chomesh? I have a scenario which b'mezid there's also chomesh. Right? Here I got one. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Zira, Gezeres HaKosav. The Gezeres HaKosav, that you only bring a chomesh if you're completely shogeg. How so? Where do we see it? Ishki ochal kodesh bishkoga. And shetei kochil also bishkoga. That he was completely unaware of the penalty. Only then does he get a chomesh. But if he knew that if he was mazid ba'achila and shogeg b'chomesh, that's insufficient to get him a chomesh. He has to be completely shogeg in order to bring a chomesh. Okay? Now, we have a very fundamental couple of lines here. I'm not sure if they're written in your Gemara the same way they're written in mine. Tani. You have no Tani. I have Tani mezid b'speiko k'shogeg b'vado. If you so you have kim mezid b'speiko k'shogeg b'vado. You see that in your Gemara? Kim mezid b'speiko k'shogeg b'vado. If you're mezid in a suffix, that's an amazing concept. You know it's a suffix truma. You have in front of you something that's a suffix truma. You don't know if it's truma or not. You eat it anyway. Says the Gemara that's tantamount to a shogeg by a vadai. To intentionally eat a suffix is intentionally to be unintentionally eat a vadai. So therefore, if you intentionally eat a suffix, what do you chayev? The Karen Chomesh, or if it's another Aveira, regular Aveira in Torah, as opposed to Truma, a korban. Right. So you intentionally translate, even though something to write to the Chumrah, if you intentionally go and eat it, you're still only going to get a korban, not malchus. Okay? Mezid be sveiko geshoy vadom. Why? Rabbi Yossi, because Rabbi Yossi says, Hadam Raz teaches us, Hashavlo midiyaso chayiv lo shigagoso. If somebody would have refrained from doing it were he to know that it was usher, that he's considered to have the status of shogeg. In other words, this guy, he's not a big enough Yerei Shamayim to refrain from it if it's a suffix. But he would be a big enough Yerei Shamayim to refrain from it if he knew it was a vadai. So that's sufficient in order for him to be considered to be a shav midiyaso. That had he known, he would have refrained from doing so. And the shav midiyaso is the definition of someone who's a shogeg who brings a korban. It's a very amazing thing. He's willing to transgress suffix. He's not willing to transgress vadai. That's tantamount to shogeg who brings a korban on that. Right. Reading certain hashkachas, shall name nameless because we're on tape. Okay? Amar. Harani put a similar idea now, or extension of this idea. Amar Harani purish mikazais. Person says, an interesting thing. I'm willing to refrain from eating kazais of Israel, but I'm not willing to refrain from any portion of chatzi size. I'm not willing to refrain from half a size. In other words, I won't have a whole Big Mac. That's from my end. But to have a half a kazai, a bite of Big Mac, that I gotta do. So Rabbi Boon Barachia, not the koichel chatzi zayis b'shogeg, chatzi zayis b'mezid. So it's no, you can't bring a korban, you can't give him malchus, because half it eats b'shogeg and half it eats it's if he eats half a kazayis b'shogeg and half a kazayis b'mezid, right? So you can never if he ate the entire thing b'shogeg, let's say he ate an entire kazayis. And he ate the whole thing with shogeg, but he still can't bring a korban. Why? Because not sham midiyaso on half of it. On half of it, had he known that he was eating it, other thing he would have eaten it anyway, because he's willing to eat up to half his eyes of Isser. So therefore, he doesn't have the full shiur necessary to bring a korban, because shiur to bring a korban is the kazayis. The kazayis, which would be shav midiyaso, the way to know it's also he would have refrained from doing so. And here, only on a half of kazayis would he have refrained had he known that it's saucer, and therefore he can't bring a korban. And of course, he can't get malchus either, the same idea. Okay? The in is bo Rabbi Boon Barachia created Shimon Lakish. What about if Rabbi Boon Barachia would hold up Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, which Dam Rabbi Shimon Lakish, Achol Chati Zayish Bishkoga. Oh, I don't know what gears you have here. I have a whole mess of here. It's probably a typo because I see the Ridbaz goes to town here. So let me read it my way and see if you can follow along. Vini's bar Rabbi I don't know. I don't think so. But it's still, I'm not sure. No. That we're getting into now. That we don't pass like. Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan Machlokas in the entire Torah where the chatzi shiur is also mutter midaraisa, but the old chatzi shiur is also midrabbanan. Okay, when the question is midaraisa, you're talking about the rice, not the rabbanan. It's about korbanos and malchus and stuff. So it's all the rices. But that's what I'm about to say. Reish Lakish's sheet is that a chatzi shiur, half a Big Mac, half a kazayis of Big Mac would be mutter midaraisa. It's only also midrabbanan. Okay? The Inis Bora, Mr. Zuger, we're now in the fourth line. Inis Bora, Rabbi Boon Barachia, Rabbi Shimon Lakish, Rabbi Boon Barachia, Rabbi Shimon Lakish. Well, it's chatzi shiur is mutter midaraisa. One is allowed to have half a kazayis of Big Mac. Dar Shimon Lakish, oh chatzi zayis b'shkoga. Rabbi Shimon Lakish says that if you eat half a kazayis unintentionally, the chatzi zayis bezadon, and half a kazayis intentionally, belim echad, in one forgetfulness. In other words, in one event. So potter, you're exempt from a carbon. V'hacha potter, here too you're exempt. I'm not sure why I'm. What? Oh, probably. Good point. Yeah. It just like over there, you're exempt from a carbon. Also over here, you're going to be exempt from a chomesh, right? Because on the half a kazai, you only have a kazai on a chomesh. If you're a chomesh on a kazai, where you'd be shav midioso, and here's not shav midioso, so ever be exempt. I'm not sure though why this contingent of Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Should be true also according to Rabbi Yochanan, who argues on him.
Why don't go back to him and get him for
Yeah, when they said this over to Shmuel, what Rav said, Amar, he said, Af B'shtar, right? Shmuel says, Halacha.
Not sure. It's not clear to me why Rabbi Shimon Lakish is brought in here.
Wow, right to this, Rav said, B'shtar.
Because
Shmuel was the one who said, Afiu B'shtar, we see the Rav only
Oh, okay. The Baz explains it. Take a look at Baz in the third line down. The similar explanation here is the Makshir of Shimon Lakish. That's good to Shimon Lakish. According to Rish Lakish, how can you find a case chiur where you're going to make him chayav b'shogeg al kazayis truma? Haminadin mutar lo lecho kol kazayis b'chaser mashu. I got it now. Okay. The Gemara's kasha is like this. The Gemara's kasha is, I'm not sure how the Gemara's going to answer. It's good kasha. The Gemara says, according to Rabbi Shimon Lakish, according to Rabbi Shlosh holds chat is mutar b'doraisa. If you ate a kazayis, it should never be chayav b'chomesh. Because on the first half of kazayis, you're not a shav midioso. You're allowed to eat it. You're allowed to eat the first half of kazayis. It's like the half kazayis of a Big Mac we were talking about before. It's taka mutter though, because chatishir is mutter midoraisa. So if that's the case, how can you be chayav chomesh when you ate a kazayis, or a karma for that matter, you ate a kazayis? You're allowed to eat the first half. The first half you're not shav midioso, right? That's very good. It's a very good question. Rabbi Shimon Lakish. Damar Rabbi Shimon Lakish achal chatzi zayis. B'shkoga v'chatzi zayis b'zorim eli mecha potter v'acha potter. You're going to remain exempt here as taka, no way to be mechayv. The Gemara doesn't answer the question. It's a brilliant question. Again, according to Rish Lakish, you're always allowed to eat the first half of kazayis. So you're not a shav midioso. So you should never be chayav on anything, even the chomesh or a korban, if all you ate was a kazayis. What?
He's arguing on the Mishnah.
Our Mishnah we talk about on the second kazayis. Our Mishnah doesn't say that only on one kazayis. It could be on the second kazayis. You know, where already you're now let's eat any of it. Let's talk a very powerful question. Let's talk a very powerful question. The Gemara says, "Achal shtei chatzoi goyan." Where it says, "Achal shtei chatzoi," he says, "Me two halves of a zayis, b'chaser kolshu," and you're missing something, potter. You're exempt because
and he handed it to him.
this is according to Rish Lakish. Let's continue with sheet of Rish Lakish. You ate two half a zayis, and you're missing.
And we don't know. Everybody were, right? Neighbor should yoni. We say should the yoni.
Yeah, this now it's very clear. It's beautiful. Gemara say Gemara is of course very abbreviated, but the Gemara is saying a very basic thing. According to Rish Lakish, where is a case where you are going to be chayiv? A chomesh or a korban from one kazayis if you intend to eat the entire kazayis. In other words, if it's not distinct, the only time Rish Lakish says chati shos min is when you were going to eat half a kazayis and stop. Period. And the second kazayis is like an afterthought. But if you intend to eat the entire kazayis at once, and even Rish Lakish holds that that's considered to be a case which is mamish aser, right, to do with intention, and therefore if you did it unintentionally you bring a korban. The only time Rish Lakish holds chadishis mutter midaraisa is if you intended to stop after half a kazayis. Am I making myself clear?
Well, you intended to stop, but you didn't. You went on.
Right.
The other.
Right. In that case, Rish Lakish would not be mechayiv you a korban. Because the first half you weren't the shav midiyasa.
You liked it so much that you went on.
You continued. But a case where you originally began with the intention to eat the full kazayis, so in that case, on that kazayis, either you're amazing and you get malchus, or you're shogi and you bring a korban. Because you didn't look at it as being a unit of a half a kazayis, on which you would not be shav midiyasa. You look and perceive the scenario as a case of full kazayis. And therefore, had you known, of course, that it was also, you would not have been allowed, nor would you have done it. So it depends on whether it's split up or not split up.
What if you intended to eat, according to Rabbi Yochanan, you intended to eat the whole...
Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You intended to eat the whole kazayis.
Yeah.
And in the middle, after eating half, you decided you didn't want to eat
But you still, you didn't transgress anything anyway. Because in order to transgress midaraisa, you need to eat a whole kazayis.
So what about chayav korban?
No. It's still not chayav korban unless you eat a whole kazayis. Rish Lakish is saying, in order to be chayav korban, you have to eat the entire kazayis with the intent to begin with to eat it. Because then his heter on the first half of kazayis doesn't kick in. Okay? So that's what he says here. If you ate 2 half seisim, the chaser koshu, and you're missing anything, potter. So koshu, the Makabanog says lav dafka, means by definition it's chaser and you're exempt. Right? If it's 2 half seisim, you're exempt according to Rish Lakish because 2 half zaysim, one of them is Shab Midiyasa, one of them is Einu Shab Midiyasa. One of them is Einu Shab Midiyasa, one of the only other one is Shab Midiyasa. When do I have a case where I could be chayev on a zayis, either a korban or malchus, where the entire thing is one unit, not 2 halves? Okay? So 2 halves is by definition chaser, and you can't be chayev. However, Moida Rish Lakish concedes by Yisuri Hanoah. If you eat something which is asur ba'anoah, such as kilei akerem, it's not a kazayis which is asur, even less than a kazayis is asur. Isur hanoah, the only things which are measured in kazaysim are things which are asur ba'achila. So as to eat the minimum shiur which of isur according to Rish Lakish is a kazayis. But with isur hanoah, so either the minimum shiur is a mashu, or at the very most a shavet pruta. Because the moment you have anoah v'shar pruta, you're chayev. So there's no concept that even Rish Lakish concedes. There's no concept of half being mutter. None of it's mutter. You can't begin the process. So even if you ate a half a kazayis and then another half a kazayis, you'd still be chayev malchus, or if you didn't unintentionally be chayev to bring a korban. Okay, that's what it's saying here. Moder Rish Lakish b'srei anoah, and moder Rish Lakish b'yom kippurim. Rish Lakish concedes by Yom Kippur, because in Yom Kippur, even half a shear is also, because the mitzvah in Yom Kippur is to be meshiv daito, to restore your faculties, and you restore your faculties to a limited extent, even with less than a kazayis. Rish Lakish concedes where your intent is eventually to complete the kazayis, not eventually, but as we just said, to complete the kazayis, then there too also, Rish Lakish says that in that case, you'll be chayav a korban on the first kazayis if you did it unintentionally, or a malchus if you did it intentionally. Okay? Rabbi Yochanan, hochel kilei akerem loike. Now we're on the topic. If somebody eats a kilei akerem, you get malchus. What's the chiddush? The chiddush is that I might say that since it's Isra Noah, maybe it has a different shiur and different parameters. That's why you say the parameter is a parameter of consumption. Going along these lines, Rabbi Yochanan, somebody who swallows vinegar of truma like it, he gets malchus, even though it's not edible. Right, doesn't matter. Somebody who eats raw grain gets malchus. Now, since these are considered to be acts of eating, Tani learned to write some truma. Somebody who swallows vinegar made of truma. Since it's not acts of eating, I'm sorry. Since it's not bona fide eating. Somebody who swallows vinegar of truma. Should only pay the principal, not the fifth. Somebody who chews grain of truma. Pays the keren and not the chomish. You guys turned the page too early. Rabbi Omer, now we're on the second page. No, now on the second page. Rabbi Omer, Rabbi says, and now you have Omer Ani. Yeah, okay. Omer Ani. Mishalim keren v'chomish. Even when you swallow vinegar, you pay keren v'chomish. And here the reason given in my Gemara is because shachometz meishiv es hanefesh. Because vinegar also is, it does something to you, right? It's nutritive. Okay? Rabbi Ami says, even Chachamim agree to Rabbi when you swallow the vinegar of truma on a piece of bread. But you dip your bread in the vinegar, or you use a salad dressing, because then already it's.
Yeah, and therefore we're going to...
you cause the coin only loss of truma tmeya? Too bad. You have to pay a chulin which is tar. If, however, you did give chulin which is tar made, yotza, then that exempts you. Rabbi Nosson depends. If you did it unintentionally, you gave him chulin tmeim, then then it works. Maze, if you did it intentionally, it doesn't work. Now it's to intentionally shortchange the kohen, that's improper. Tamotzin, we learned over there. Ain't terminat tome al Torah, now let's be terminat Torah al tome. If you did it does work. And that's Rabbanan. And Tani b'shem Rabbi Yosim terminat tome al Torah, bein b'shogi. Oh no, it doesn't work, sorry. It works only b'shogi and not b'mezid. And Rabbi Yossi says in terminat tome al Torah, if you did it terminat al Torah, bein b'shogi, bein b'mezid, even if it's shogi and even if it's mazid, masha also then it works. Now the Gemara makes a statement. Asoy yichidah da'acha, the statement which by us attributed to sumchus, that only works if it is shoy knife did it be mazid, is kistam and tamon is like the generic sheet. I mean the sheet of all the rabbis over there who say that there is a dichotomy between shoy and mazid. And the Chidah Tamon, the same Rabbi Yossi there, which says there's no distinction between Shayim and Mezid, is Kistam Adach is like the generic statement over here, which holds there's no distinction. But the evidence, if you gave Chulin Tmeim instead of Chulin Torim, that it works and becomes Truma. Okay? Do you have a head here? Vatashlum in Truma? Hechavida, yeah. Hechavida. How does it become? We're going back to the Mishnah where it says that when you pay back with the chulin, they become truma. What does that mean? How does it work? Hechavida. Rabbi Zir Cherachin said, "Tashlume truma rein k'truma chol davar." Once you give the payment, the restitution of grain to the kohen, it becomes truma for all matters. Ella, except shegudulein chulin. That when it grows, in other words, if you plant that in the ground, that truma, whatever grows is chulin. Gidule truma harein chulin chol davar. The what grows from regular chulin for regular truma, not just from the tashlumin, is also chulin for all matters. Ella, wherever there's a distinction, the distinction is that asurim lazorim, that midrabanan, whatever grows from regular truma is also for commoners, but whatever grows from the tashlumin of truma, that's mutzah for commoners. Okay, again, it's a rabbinic distinction. The rights, it doesn't matter. Whatever grows from truma is a new thing. It's not chayiv in truma. but it's chulin. It's not truma. But this is a rabbinic distinction. Rabbi Yossi said, "Vanat ninan tarteon." We learned all of these things from our Mishnayos. Well, how so? It says Tashlumei Truma Rein that which we just said, Tashlumei Truma Rein Truma L'chol Davar, that payment of Truma is like Truma in all matters. Ditznina, we learned that our Mishnah, that's alluded to when it says Eino Mishalim Truma El Chulin Mitzukanin. You don't pay back with Truma, you pay back with rectified Chulin, meaning which is tight already, Fein Nasim Truma, and they become Truma. So it says that almost explicitly. And that which we said, El Gidul Shegidulei Chulin, that which grows to them is Chulin, that also is essentially explicit in our Mishnah. The Tzinian we learned, we didn't learn it yet, we're going to learn it later. The Tzinian Gidulei Truma. So that which goes from Truma is Truma, or Gidulei Tashlumin, but that which, from this we infer, that which goes from Tashlumei Truma is Chulin, remains Chulin. And Gidulei Truma Rein Chulin L'chol Davar, that which it says that Gidulei Truma are like Chulin in all matters, no, it's a Chayiv and Leket Shikla and all pay and all that. That we learn out from the Tzanino, from another Mishnah, where it says that Gidulei Truma Chayeves Leket Shikla and Peah, Chayiv and Leket Shikla and Peah, Bani Yisrael Bani Yekol Melaktim. And both poor Jews and poor Kohanim can't collect it. Elish Rasur and Lazarim, it's just that it's forbidden for Zorim to eat. The Tzanino, as it says over there, Bani Yisrael, if poor Jews collect that which grew from Truma plants, then poor Yisraelim, Mochim es Shelohen, they have to pay that which they collected, La Kohanim, to the Kohanim, but they made Truma for the price of Truma, but Adam Hashem, they only get to keep the money, not get to keep the crop itself. Okay? Tanya. Tashlumei Truma, Ein Mishalmin Keren V'chomish. If you ate Tashlumei Truma, wait. Sorry. If you gave Tashlumei Truma to a Kohen, or designated them even to give to a Kohen, then you can't use them to repay a Keren V'chomish if you then again eat more Truma. Because whatever the Keren V'chomish must come from Chulin. It can't come from Truma or from Tashlumei Truma. Okay? U'mishalmin aleim Keren V'chomish. And if Yisrael eats these Tashlumei Truma, he's got to pay an additional Keren V'chomish for eating them. They're not Chayim Mechalel because they themselves are Truma. Ve'eni Adayim Poslos. But on the other hand, they're not fully like Truma. For instance, hands, which are normally Matame Truma, are not Matame them. And Tefillin don't touches them, but they don't make them Tameh. Kiderech she'ein Posim Mechulin. In a similar way, I know you have a different girsa there, but he makes a tikkun here. Kashem she'ein Posim Mechulin, which is a similar way to the way Teful Yom and a Yodayim don't make Chulin Tameh. But for Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Modebu, and Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon both concede this. And Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi, we're about to see, we haven't seen them yet. Getting back to the Mishnah, or no, don't go back to the Mishnah, but the Mishnah said, V'imratza kohen limchol v'chulei. Mishnah said, the kohen wants to be moichel, he can't be moichel. Now, says Lamar, that's kshelo hifrish. That's if the Yisrael hasn't yet set aside the Truma. What if the Yisrael set aside the restitution, and then he ate the restitution? Pluk to the Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon. What his status is a machlokas Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon. The Tani we learned to the Brisa, Vanessa Kohen is Kodesh. You have to give the Kohen the stuff which you designate as restitution, which is called Kodesh. Doesn't mean that the moment you set it aside as restitution, it has the status of Truma, and therefore if you eat it, you're chayav a Keren Chomesh for having eaten it. No, only when you give it to the Kohen. Giving it to Mekadesh it, and only in that case you chayav on a Keren Chomesh. Divrei Rebbe. So therefore, two things. A, it doesn't become bona fide truma until it's given to a Kohen. And B, the flip side of that, if the Kohen is moichel to you and says, oh, don't worry, keep it. It certainly doesn't work at that point, because what's he telling you to keep? You haven't been yotzei chiv restitution yet. You're only yotzei chiv restitution when you actually give it to him. However, Elizabeth Shimon Omer, af chashotzai, he just sets it aside, because that sanctifies it, l'chayav of Keren v'chomish. and you're chayav and care of chomish if you eat it already then. When Yisrael set aside this restitution, that's enough to make him chayav if he eats it afterwards.
But if the coin is meichel on it?
Oh, so now, at that point, now the flip side is that since it's already restitution, the moment set aside, the coin can be meichel it. But all it means that the coin is meichel it just means that you don't have to give it to him, you can sell it to him or any other coin. It's still truma. I may have messed that up the first time I understood it. It's still truma. Truma it still is. Okay. And mochal, going to Lamed Beis Ralph now, because he takes out the last two words in the line. Mochal v'achakach ochal. Let's say the coin's moichel it, and then Yisrael eats it. Now he's eating truma, that's for sure. But what does he have to do? Took to Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. It's machlokas Rabbi Yochanan Shimon ben Lakish. It's Zuger on top of Lamed Beis Ralph. Mochal v'achakach ochal. The coin was moichel, but then Yisrael ate it. Looked at Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. This Balkun, a case like this, a wild and woolly case. Goes out truma. Your grandfather's a Kohen. You're Yisrael. Or Levi for that matter. Goes out truma shel avi imo Kohen v'meis. You stole truma from your grandfather, your mother's father, and then your grandfather died. You stole and you ate it. Rabbi Yochanan says you got to pay the Kohanim because you stole their truma. You give it Keren Chomish. You keep the money for yourself because you inherited. Since your grandfather had no other heirs, you're his heir, so you get to keep the principal. However, we're going to see later on the Chomish you don't get to keep. Chomish you have to give to the Shevet. That's separate. But the bottom line is that you get to keep the principal.
But the principle is true.
What?
The principle now is true.
So it's true, but you can sell it. You don't have to give it. Okay, that's what it boils down to. If the coin was meichel you and then you ate it, avade, whatever, you have to make restitution. But what happens when you make restitution? Since there's a mechil already, so Kohen Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan doesn't work. You have to, when you make restitution, you have to still give it to a Kohen. Going to Reish Lakish though, you make restitution to yourself. It's truma, but now you can sell it to a Kohen. You don't have to give it to him for free. All right, we'll stop here for this evening because the next part is a little bit complicated and we won't get through it tonight. And we're going to learn Sunday at 8:00 in my shul. Okay.
Yaakov figured what Esav was going to do. So